breaks, I think. Yeah,
Oh,
bang it straight on the record there, Sean.
So I'm just gonna turn the volume up a little bit. My volume's a little bit low, and I don't know whether it's my there's that. Where the bloody hell's my volume? Oh well, don't worry. We'll get by. I can hear you all right. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, we're good, man. Very good. Busy as always, but that's busy is good. So,
for the people who don't know you, give yourself a bit of an introduction, because it's weird that someone can be so big in the pest control industry and so few people in proportionality know who you are.
When you say I'm big, you're saying I'm overweight. Is that what you're saying?
Look, my name's in that direction, young man.
Look, my name's Sean Taylor. I look after the Pestforce brand. The Pestforce brand is a national company. We run as a franchise operation. So we're effectively I'll call us a medium-sized pest control company. And instead of employees, we use the franchise model, which is maybe alien to some people. Some people might be familiar with it. And then within the franchise model, we have some franchisees that are now going into multi-vehicle. So they're now beginning to employ. And we have a big focus on the domestic market. We very much heavily focus on local service, local delivery, but we do have a national footprint, and we do work with quite a few national accounts as well. So it kind of a good mix, and it kind of keeps me busy. It keeps us all busy here at the office, and it's good fun. We're here basically to support. We're like the back office of franchise of pest controllers that are out there doing the job like so many others. And our job is to try and help and support that. And I think if you run your own business, you probably understand that more than people that don't run their own business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was absolutely one of those people who had no idea of how a franchise worked. I'd never looked at it. I'd never considered it. And, I think it's well known that me and one of your franchisees have become very good pals. We give each other a lift on a regular basis. I wouldn't say we work closely together, but what happens is if he needs a hand, I'll go and give him one, and he'll give me one, and we'll bat stuff about. And through that, I've been able to understand a little bit more about the franchise model, because we speak so regular. We probably talk every day, every other day, something like that. And it really shocked me of how that model works and what it gets and all that. So I just thought it was a great opportunity, especially as there'll be people watching this thinking about coming into pest control, to sort of get both ends of the spectrum, because we didn't go down that route. We've had to do it on our own, for want of a better word. So yeah, do you want to run us through how a franchise works and the difference between a good one and a bad one?
Wow, you really are going deep straight away, aren't you? Straight in.
Go for it.
Well, let me get a few more cards on the table. I'm not a pest controller. I'm not trained. I've been involved in the business 7 or 8 years, and I've kind of got a much better feeling for it. So while I'm not trained, I kind of have lived it. I've been out with franchisees. I've been up to my knees in SHIT. I've seen it, lived it, breathed it. My franchisees love it when I come out, and do you know what they save? They save their best jobs for me, like the really lovely ones. We quite we like the little details, and we talk about putting on overshoes, and they take me to the houses where you put the overshoes on because you want to keep your shoes nice and clean, sort of thing. So no, I've done this. So how do I describe a franchise? First of all, I would say franchising has a very bad name from history. I think people say franchising and there's a lot of baggage, and I kind of understand that. I came into franchising by default. I wanted to move away from paid employment. I wanted to start my own business, and an opportunity came around to buy a franchise, and that's how I got into franchising. So I kind of I learned it, from the bottom up, if you like, but I didn't start it from scratch. I bought something that was already kind of working, and I say kind of working. It was needed a lot of work, and it was probably built all incorrectly. People see franchising as a way of growing their business with other people invest, so if you wanted to grow your business today, you would probably have to invest more money in buying, cars, technicians, expanding yourself. Whereas a franchise gives you an opportunity to effectively people to buy into your model and set up their business in a box. You give them a business in a box and they can get up and running really quickly, and you provide all the training and all the support. So franchising is kind of a business in a box. You pay money for it. It's I call it, not you spend money, you invest money in the franchise. And a franchise fee kind of works in two ways. There's an investment in the brand and there's investment in training. Obviously, you would have to invest in training whether you started a franchise or not a franchise. And then the investment in the brand is kind of the setup of a business where you literally come out of training and your business is up and running. Websites are there. You've got a system to record all your work. You've got your treatment reports. You've got your health and safety systems in place. You've got your IT systems in place. You've got your insurance in place, and all those things that someone like you, have been through that pain. And I'm very clear on one thing: franchising is not right for everybody. We do not go out there and say it's the best thing you can do. There are two options. You go and you go and become an employee. And you endure the idea of being an employee, and you maybe grow with that business as an employee and maybe become an ops person and maybe even take over that business. You could become an employee and then maybe set up on your own. And so you get trained by somebody and you go and set up on your own. Or you start from scratch. People come into this industry with no experience, go and do a 2-3 week course and then go and think they're going to go and own the world. And one thing I've learned in this business is really clear. Starting a business, everyone has that. Loads of people have that view. They want to start a business, and they get all the, it's like rose tinted glasses. I'm just going to set up a business, and I'm going to have this beautiful website, and the work is just going to flood into me. And I say this: if you want to run a business, you have to learn how to run a business. There are brilliant pest controllers out in the real world, brilliant pest controllers, but they haven't got a clue how to run a business. And that's the real sad thing. These great people that have great passion, love their customers, know the gestation period of this and that, and they know all the Latin names, they know it all, but they just can't run a business. And I would like to think we fit that a little bit. We're never going to go out. I'm not going to go and do your pest control, but we're going to give you all that support that while you're out there doing what you need to do, we're kind of helping fill that little void behind you. And what's the biggest void? New work, getting customers. How hard is that? You can't be a brilliant pest controller and a brilliant marketeer and a brilliant salesman. And if you're all of those, then you can set up on your own and do really well. Otherwise, you've got to set up on your own and do it the hard way, learn the hard graft. And that takes time and effort and time and effort. And most people give up on that journey, which is a real shame.
Yeah, I had this conversation with your lad. I'm not going to say his name because it's a bit shit to drop him in because he's not here. I know he wouldn't mind, but I just don't think it's right. But I can remember looking at him and saying, mate, like, you started off in the same position I was in after like 5.5 years. And then when I was talking to him, I was like, actually, you're even further. Like, because the stuff that he got help with that you don't understand when you first started. Someone to run your pay-per-click ads. Like, yeah. You don't and this is what you don't realize when you get into business. It's okay, you think, oh yeah, well, I can do them myself. Yeah, well, we tried that and you hemorrhage money like it's going out of fashion. Probably. So then you say to yourself, I know what we'll do. We'll get someone in to do it. And that world, that digital world, is just the Wild West. There's a million firms out there. Trying to find one you can trust is a total nightmare. Yeah. And they've got no scruples at turning around to you and saying, it's 500 quid a month for your spend minimum and 500 quid for us to run this campaign. And they don't know what they're doing. They've started up the day before and you're like that, like, oh my word, like, and all of a sudden it mounts up. You're like, if you sat down and put your figures together, you can be 5, 6, 7, 8 grand in a hole. And you're like, oh no, like, yeah, I think we'll give up on pay-per-clicks, but you've just got that ability to go, yep, done it. Yep, done it.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, this is why you're doing these sort of videos. I think people in business need to be honest. What I hate about business and stuff is people talk about all the wonderful stuff they do. Oh, I won this contract, I did this, we do that. They never talk about the hard work that goes to get there. And it's funny, I watched a really interesting video the other day about an entrepreneur who was you know, it's the normal bullshit, getting in a Ferrari and saying, you know, people chastise me for who I am and what I do, but you know, they weren't doing this, they weren't doing this. And it's taken me 10, 15, 20 years to get to where I get to. And my hat off goes off to anybody who starts their own business. But you have to, you kind of can't teach people, even as a franchise. People come into our franchise and there's an element of rules and guidance. There's a path to follow. And obviously there's a certain path. You can't fall too far off the path from a point of view of brand protection. But that to one side, people wander down this path. And we say a bit like, and I'm not being conceited when I say it's a bit like bringing up kids. I don't mean it quite like that. Don't touch, it's hot. Don't touch, it's hot. And in business, you kind of have to do that. We like to think we can try and stop that happening, but even in our network, I'll be foolish to think that people don't go off the rails a little bit and think, could they get a phone call from Yale? I mean, you must have had that phone call from Yale that just said, oh, what you want to do? You know, we're going to do this. It's about I know it's about a 25-minute pitch. I've heard it and it sounds really good. You know, we're the best at digital. You just do this, you do that. We'll throw in an extra area and suddenly you've invested $3.5 grand and you've got nothing out of it. And it just, you know, you know, people have done it in my network. Don't ever invest in Yale. We tell, set up a Yale listing, but never listen to the call, but just say that head office deal with it. And people still get taken into it and go, oh, that sounds great. And they ring me up and say, we just invested in Yale. They've given me 3 extra territories. And I just say, congratulations, you just wasted $3 grand. You know, and it happens. And it's just, but you say, it's so interesting talking to you because we don't talk to many people that have set up their own business like you and have gone through that hardship. But, you know, kudos to anybody that pushes through it. But how much does it cost?
I'm dead honest, Sean. I'm really honest. And I'm sure that time will come again. We have survived by our bootstraps on numerous occasions. We have lost money on things. We've made money on things. We're kind of starting to get a bit settled in what we do. But yeah, there are lots of, I absolutely, through talking to your lad, understand the value that he gets. And I think, I don't know if he would agree with this or not, but I would think he probably would. I don't think he even realised the value he got until he spoke to me. Like when he turned around, I said, mate, I pay 750 quid a month for SEO. Yeah, like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
And I could get it done cheaper, but I trust the guy who does it. You know,
yeah.
We don't do every month. We
pay.
probably do 6 months on, 6 months off, and it keeps us where we need to be to keep the calls coming in. But if you wanted to do that, a bit of pay-per-click, something on, what was it Alan Sugar said? I've wrote a book on marketing, a checkbook. And it's true.
I haven't heard that one before. That's
that's what he said, isn't it? And what was the other one? He said, I've wasted all the money I put into marketing. I wasted half of it. The issue is I don't know what half I wasted. And when you're in charge of pushing them buttons, you know, if you're doing it for the first time, I get that massively. And that's like, in talking to all that, he's like, really, you pay that? And I'm like, yeah, we'll pay for this, we'll pay for that. You know, we pay all our insurances, we pay it. You know, if there's a problem, use assist with that problem, don't you? I don't.
Yeah,
it's up to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's our job. I mean, I'm rubbish at pest control. I mean, you know, I could probably set a snap trap just about, but when it comes to business problems, and it's, you know, when you have a problem as a sole trade, particularly as a sole trader or a business owner like you, it's like, who do you go and talk to? You know, I don't want to go and talk to the lawyers just yet because, you know, it's going to cost me. I just need to talk through somebody, and I'd like to think that's what we're here for, you know. And a problem for an entrepreneur or someone running their own business or a man in a van is a little problem can actually suddenly feel like a massive problem, and then you go home tonight and you plays on your mind. You don't sleep, and again, you know, there's probably not much. I mean, you know, I've been in business. I've been in like corporate life and small businesses for 30 odd years. There's probably not much I don't know, or I don't know someone that's been through it. And then you can just kind of talk about it. And actually a problem is actually not that big a problem, but for you as a person, of course it's a problem. Yeah. But just coming back to your relationship with our guy, which, you know, I totally get about just not saying who it is. You know, so people think, again, this is really an interesting thing. How do you view your competition? Do you even view your competition as competition? Because I don't.
No.
As far as I'm concerned, they're colleagues. If good pest controllers, don't matter what the name is on the back of your vest, a good pest controller should be your mate, should be your friend, should be part of your team. Yes,
Yeah.
we're competing for work and all the rest of it, but you know, businesses, people just have this wrong mindset. Oh, we're up against the competition. Well, no, sort out the good from the bad, and your colleagues are the good, and you know, okay, the bad are your competition, because we just want rid of them. You know, the fly-by-nights and stuff like that. But it's just interesting, because I think some people think you shouldn't talk to the competition. I just think you should always talk to the competition, chat to them, share ideas, because we're in the same industry. You know, we're here to protect the industry and grow the industry for the right reasons.
Yeah. So, but just a little bit, I mean, before I'd done this, I was a farrier. I had my own business doing that. But I always said farrier was the safest way in the world to learn business, because I made some horrendous mistakes. But there was always more customers than there was farriers, so you never run that risk. If I'd pulled some of the stunts in pest control that I pulled in there, I wouldn't have a business. So we sort of ticked away doing that, and it was through doing that allowed us to set up Hill Lane, and then you realise that it's what you wanted to do, so you push into it. But yeah, the one thing I learned very quickly when I was a farrier was that when you have competition that you don't get on with, it drives the prices down, because you don't want to lose out to so and so, he doesn't want to lose out to you. People start nitpicking and turning up, and do you know what I mean? Like they're having a go at each other, and all that happens is the price that you can charge comes down. When people talk, when businesses in that area talk to each other, I say to people all the time, you've got to remember, you see people putting these posts up of this terrible work, and it used to happen in farrier, it happens in every industry. Look, this guy's done a shit job, this guy's done a shit job. And I say, you only see their worst work.
Yeah.
Because their good work they look after. And it became apparent to me when I was a farrier, and it is now in pest control. When I walk in and a job is in shit order that I've been to, the first thing I think is, but why? Why has it gone wrong? Have they not paid the bill? Have they got a bad attitude? Are they not turning up on time? What's broken down in this relationship? Because I guarantee you, if that customer was one they wanted to keep, the work would be a lot better. And I think when you talk to the local lads, you very quickly learn who to avoid and who not to avoid. You know who they're doing work for. They know who you're doing work for. And we get referrals, and we get loads of drainage referrals, but we pass other referrals out, woodworm jobs and stuff like that we don't do. If I'm falling out with you, I'm not passing it. You're not passing me it. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
totally.
Let's support each other.
There's more than enough work out there for everybody. I just wish people was a little bit open-minded, but I think, you know, sometimes, you know, just some people just have this wrong idea. But you know, that's life. Everyone's got different opinions, but
Yeah.
you know, I'm a big advocate for, you know, we're in an industry that has various reputations, you know, and as an industry we need to grow, and we need to grow by working together. You know, we
are
are
waiting to switch the light on.
Yeah. That's so you turn on the electricity here. If I sit still for too long and stop pedaling, the lights go out. So, but what made you get into pest control then? So
when I was a kid, and people were playing with master systems and mega drives and stuff like that, I had a little whip across. I went fishing. The best pal was we would spend literally every evening and every weekend fishing or chasing rabbits around or setting snares or whatever it was. But I was academic at school, believe it or not. And my dad, it's quite funny that my dad's coming up, because when you were talking earlier, he was the epitome of what you were saying. He was the best bricklayer you could ever meet in your life. Couldn't run a business, you know. And I don't know if he'll watch this or not. He'll probably nod and smile a little bit at that. He had this belief that being the best bricklayer and doing the best work was the way to run a business. But he would never invest in a nice van. He would never, do you know what I mean? And he would turn up, and as a result, he was always competing on price. He was never competing on quality, which was a shame, because, and it's that old thing, customers don't know a good job. They know a really terrible job, but a good bricklayer from a brilliant bricklayer, they look at it and it's just a wall, isn't it? So he never got there. But yeah, so my dad had always said to us, there's easier ways for you to make money than to be on the tools. Like I don't want you on the tools, don't do it. It's broke me back. It's broke, and he's a broken man now. You know, he's got COPD with the cement dust on his lungs and all that sort of jazz. And he used to say it was all the time, I don't want you on the tools, I don't want you on the tools. So I followed his advice because I knew he would never give us wrong advice on purpose. And he's a worldly man, do you know what I mean? Like brought up the tough way, he could spot it. But it's not the advice I would give my son. Now knowing what I know, because I think the truth is you've just got to go and do what makes you happy, you know. And that being said, Sean, if I had tried to start up a pest control business at 19, 20, 21 years old, it would have failed. I did not have the skills. I went to London, I got some people skills. I went into farriery, I kind of learned business in a way that I could pay bills. And then I came into this and it kind of all gelled together. But yeah, that was sort of my path into it. But and when Ellis first started with me, I used to say to him, I can teach you how to be a pest controller, but I can't teach you how to kill stuff. And he'd like, look, you're like, you've got two heads. And you go, I don't understand. I'd say, some people have an ability to walk in and to see what's happening and to understand and to know how to sort that job out, how to kill that rat. They know how to do it. And there's other people who have to go around and put a box every 10 meters and fill it with 200 grams of bait and follow the label, you know. And I say all the time, you've got to be able to kill stuff. And I don't mean pull a trigger or what have you. I mean, be able to see how to get that job finished. And I think what sets us apart is the fact that from a young age, that's what I did. All my friends went off to be gamekeepers, every single one of them. But I was told there's no future in it, don't do it, it's not for you. And I think it was the right advice. I didn't do it. Probably wouldn't have got settled in there, would have went on to something else, whatever it was. But even when I wasn't in the industry from a young age, I've always been involved in doing something like that. So I can remember honestly, my first job I ever did for myself, I charged 70 quid for a rat job because I had no idea of pricing, zero. And I walked in and the woman said, we've got rats. And I went, all right. And I killed them, like done, finished. I was over the moon. And I, done like an hour's work, 70 quid, whatever it was. Went back, picked the poison up after it was finished. And I walked out thinking, fucking hell, that's easy as 70 quid I've ever made. Honestly, I had no idea. That's how
you still charge 70 quid.
Yeah, that's how green we were when we first started.
Yeah.
As you know, you get the kicks in the nuts along the way, don't you? The one that goes wrong. And all of a sudden, like, you're a charity. It's my favorite thing that I say to people starting out is there's three types of business. There's a profitable business, there's a not-for-profit enterprise, and there's a charity. And you have to, and we still do it now. The amount of people I speak to and they'll talk to you about stuff and they'll say, but are you profitable? And they'll go, yeah. And I'll go, are you? And they'll go, yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah. What did you make last year? And they'll say, I made like 45 grand, 50 grand. And you're like, right, what does it cost you to take out your business? How much you got to pay a pest controller? Oh, he's like 24. All right. So you're going to answer the phone for you? No. So you're going to go and get work for you? No. So you're going to have to employ someone to do that? Yeah. So as a pest controller on your own, you're wearing 5, 6, 7 hats, but you're charging for one. So if you take them out, and I'm like, so if you've paid all them people, how much have you made? And they're like, well, probably not. I'm probably like 20 grand down. I'm like, so you're a charity then? You're now a charity. That's what you're doing. You are subsidizing that customer's pest control because you can't grow. And my dad, it just burns into my brain. How many tradesmen have more work than they can handle but can't grow a business? How many bricklayers, how many plumbers, how many plasterers have more work than they can handle but they can't grow a business? And you're like, why? And they're like, well, because the people who I want to employ want too much money. And you're like, right, so your pricing's wrong.
Yeah.
Wrong. Done, finished, complete.
Pricing and figures are just so far off people's comfort zone, and they don't. I mean, it comes back to what you say. It's how do you value your time? And too many people start their own business and actually earn more than earn less than national minimum wage when they work out the hours and efforts they put in and what they're making. Now, if that is part of the journey that you have to go on early doors to kind of, but you kind of have to value your time, and you can't grow a business unless you value your time. And what I mean by that is, everyone only has 24 hours in a day. If you're working for 12 of those hours, what are you going to do with the rest? Now you have to learn to take that step forward. But it also comes back to what you said originally. If you are happy in what you do and what you earn, then that's happy. That's kind of the way I look at it. Is it comes back to what are you trying to achieve from what you do. Now, if you're someone like you don't want to just be a man in a van. You want to have what I call a bricks and mortar building. We've got an office, we've got staff. I could grow this business to the stage where I could go on holiday and I still make a living. And that's what I call a business. Other people kind of want to leave paid employment. And this is what we see coming into our network. Look, I'm fed up with corporate life. I'm fed up. I just want to create this. And if they can create that, the life they want to lead, what they need to earn, that's happy days. And then we get other people that don't. But it's just understanding what I don't think people come into business really understanding what they want. They want to run their own business, but why do they want to run their own business? And we don't start with the end in mind. It's really difficult to create what you want. And then you end up with a lot of people starting their own business, as you say, everything on their shoulders. They don't think properly. Yeah, they're busy, but they don't grow a business. They earn a salary, don't they? That's all they do. They just earn a salary. They burn themselves out. They hate their job because they're always being pulled from pillar to post. They don't, but it's because no one gets tutored on it either, do they? I mean, I say part of our role as a franchise is to tutor people to run a business properly. It's kind of what we talked about at the very start of this. But how many trades would have, if I said to you, if you were on your own now, Sean, and I said, invest in 500 quid a month in a mentor that's going to help you run your business. You go, why do I need to do that? I'm the best pest controller. What's the mentor going to do for me? And I sometimes use the analogy in football. You go back 20 years or 30 years in football, you'd have a manager, you'd have a trainer, and you had someone cutting up the oranges at half time, and that would be it. Now there's the nutritionist, there's the physiotherapist. Because they've learned in football, and it's the same analogy in business. If you want to be the best, you have to get the right team around you, and you have to, and that is what's going to make you successful. But again, I can't afford that, and I can't afford that, and I can't afford that. Well, that's the wrong approach, isn't it? The approach should be what needs to happen in my business so I can afford that. And you get to the stage, I want an estimator in my business. Okay, what needs to happen for you to get an estimator? Well, I need to earn X grand. To get X grand, I need to do this. And if you work through a formula, it's so much easier to kind of grow your business. But people they're not tutored. They just all they see is money going out the door and nothing coming in. And it's just blinkered, isn't it? It's just a blinkered view. I mean, you're a rarity.
Yeah, you are pretty much describing like my life. And as you say, for me, like even now, knowing what a franchisee gets, I know that they are on a far better footing than me and compete better than me from day dot. But the person I am, I could do it because I'm one of them where I need to go through the pain. I need to figure it out. That's part of the enjoyment of me, the pain. I enjoy it. But if you are not that person, I understand I'm different. Like the model that you have is impressive. Like when I look at it, if I just wanted to make money, if I was the person that said, I want to go into business and I want to make money, I would have signed up to it in the blink of an eye, knowing what I know through talking to Malcolm. And then you look at like what's available, and it just, I won't lie, and I'm sure there's lots of people out there probably would have thought the same way as I did towards franchises, but it just shocked me the value that they get for what they get.
Yeah, and it's nice to hear that. And at the end of the day, this is very much about personalities. And I say, as I said at the start, you're right. When we go through a process of someone, we get, I don't know, let's say for every franchisee, we call them, let's call it recruit, whatever the word is, attract to recruit. We've talked to 100 people before we get that one person.
So talk about that then. Talk about that process of getting from 100 down to 1.
So this is it's like any business. We get leads. We market ourselves. We don't market ourselves massively, but we do market ourselves. We know our target market. We know where we need to advertise. So this is again the learning process of any business. People think, oh, you just advertise everywhere, don't you? Well, you have to be smart. Where do you advertise? So we know where we need to advertise. We know our avatar, so we know our ideal customer. And then people will make inquiries. And of course, you see an advert, start your own business, you know, franchise, whatever. So we get the phone call or the inquiry. We send out a pack, you know, quite a comprehensive pack, how much it costs, what you get. Again, all written format. And then people, some people won't engage with us, but we talk about 100 people will say, put their hand up and say, yes, I want to start my own business. Yes, I'm interested. And then we whittle it through. We've got like 9 steps in the process before someone would join us. And that process is twofold. It's two ways, really. It's like, Sean, you know, do you think you could be a good fit for us? And do we think you will fit well in? So it's a two-way process because it's a relationship that needs to last. So we literally try and put up barriers all the way through the process to whittle out people like yourself. Like if you came to me today, I'd be thinking, how do I get Sean into my business? But I don't want to attract you into the business by saying, Sean, you're going to earn a fortune. Sean, you're going to do this. I'm going to say, Sean, what do you want out of the business? What are you expecting to do? And if you came to me and said, Sean, I want 8, 10, 12 vans on the road. I want to take over half of north of England, you know, and I don't want to listen to what you say. I just want your name above the door. I say, look, that's not really what we sell. You know, if you're looking for support, you know, you're good here, you're weak here. I'm looking for that support mechanism. This could be right for you. But then we ask you the next question is, what are you trying to achieve? What does your wife think about it? And we want to understand that if we know what we have, we need to know to make sure that you will fit into what we have. And you need to think that we will be a good fit. And that, therefore, what we find over the process, which goes from sort of sending them information, having a conversation, asking them to speak to franchisees, come and meet us, come into the office. So you've got to drive from where you live to here. That's a good telling point whether they're really interested. And we'll keep putting things down. We'll tell them this is fucking hard work. You know, this ain't going to be, you know, you're going to come out of training and people are going to throw rose petals in front of you as you go to your first job. It's going to be nothing like that. And if this excites you, then we can get to it. And then the last thing we put together is the financials. So we need to understand you personally. How much do you need to survive for the next 6 months, 12 months, whatever it is? And if the numbers don't add up, we won't move forward. And people don't get this. They go, what do you mean it makes a difference? Well, if you were a single lad living at home and you wanted to start your own business, low risk, you know, you probably only need, you know, a few £100 a week to pay for the beer. If you leave your paid employment on 100 grand a month, 100 grand a year, and you got 3 kids, 2 cars, and you want to sustain your life, we're sort of saying, what, you want to do that from day one? Like, yeah, we think we're good, but you ain't going to do that from day one. So we're real, and all that does is put people off, and that's what I want, because I want people to join for the right reasons. So, you know, that's how we do it, and it's painful because you spend a lot of money marketing, getting leads. But ultimately, you've got to get the right people in, because if you get it wrong, it's fucking hard.
Yeah, we do something on a far smaller scale, but I tell the lads, I call it pre-qualifying them. When a customer rings up, when a customer gets in touch, you've got to pre-qualify them, get rid of them if they're not right from day dot. You know, not say it to Hugh, and it's come up in a couple of these podcasts that we do. Not everyone with a rat problem is your customer. You know,
Absolutely
like
right.
You have to very quickly work out what that customer wants and whether they are wanting to buy what you are selling. So you might be a guy who just wants to go throw some poison in and give them what they want for, you know, and your market is huge because there's lots of people out there who want the cheapest job possible. You know, in this came up on the last one, we're not all hunting the same rabbit, are we? You know, Rent-A-Kill, everyone has a go at Rent-A-Kill, and I'm like, you just don't get it. You're not hunting the same rabbit. Their prices are their prices because they've got to go and deal with nuclear reactors. Do you know what I mean? Like, they've got to go and deal with MOD sites that and they have to have them processes in place. But you can't just charge them. Everyone has to get it. There's a crossover, but we're hunting different rabbits. So I say it all the time, like, you've got to pre-qualify your customers. You've got to, when you ring up, there's certain customers, as soon as they speak to us, I'll tell them the price. Because I know they'll go, oh, can I ring you back? And I go, yeah, great. And I haven't wasted 15 minutes trying to talk them into a job that we're never going to get. And then there's other people, you answer the phone and you can tell straight away, you're like, yeah, we can help you. I know that I fit you and you fit me. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I know that we're there, we'll have that. But yeah, and it's funny that you go through that process to such a huge degree.
Yeah, and I love your analogy, and I wish more people kind of had your, because in business, like you say, not everyone's your perfect customer. If you think they are, then you're mad. Basically, you're going to chase a lot of rabbits, as you put it. But put it like this: someone spent, no disrespect, someone's spending 200 quid on buying a rodent thing. If someone's going to invest like the best part of 30 odd grand into our business, I want to look them in the eye, and I want, I don't want that on my conscience that. And this is where franchising got a bad name, because everyone thinks of franchising as an advert for a franchise is the Ferrari car, the beach holiday. This could be yours one day, son. And it's like so far from the truth. It's not, it's achievable potentially for the odd 1%. It's so far from the truth. But someone's going to, I think the two biggest purchases in your life is maybe buying a house and buying a franchise. Now, everybody understands bricks and mortar. They don't have a clue what a franchise is. And so I'm never going to have it on my conscience that I attracted someone in that I thought was never going to make it. I have to be careful, because I can't, in the space of a few meetings and a few calls, you can't always understand the psyche of somebody. You can't. It's just, we don't do psychometric testing, but I want to test his mettle, his or hers. And I'm being a bit he here. I know we're heavily male bias, but we don't have a female franchisee in our network. We have female employees, and I have to say, the female employees outstrip some of the males by a mile. They're just brilliant with customers, brilliant at compliance, brilliant at the job, and I think as an industry, we need to do something about that. That's going off track a little bit, but that's why. But I say, I have, it's so interesting that people try and, they get a phone call and they think it's their job. And it's their duty to convert it into a customer. As you say, you spend so much time on the phone. It's ridiculous, but it's not. It's, as you say, sort out the people you want to work with and work with them, and the ones you don't work with them. I've very similar to you, Sean. I don't do a lot of selling to customers, but any national accounts that ring me, and don't take this literally, I will not leave my office unless I'm comfortable they've answered 3 or 4 questions the right way, because it's like, I'm not going to be part of your beauty parade. I'm not going to drive 3 hours and do a little dance in front of you because you tell me, because I value my time, and it opens up so many different conversations, doesn't it? When you get on well with people, you understand them, they understand you, and then almost price doesn't become an issue. I'm not saying it's not an issue, but once you establish a relationship with a customer, even if it's those first few minutes on the phone, what do they want? They want their problem solved, and they want to be able to trust and like you to be able to do it. And if you can get that across, you kind of got onto a winner.
Another one I use, though, I always say to people, like, because pest control in every industry I've been in, there's been, or even witnessed, there's been exactly the same, with the same problems about pricing and people not wanting to pay and all that sort of shit. And I would say, but price is very rarely the determining factor. And they're like, no, it is. And I'm like, right, I'll do it to you now. Did you buy those glasses on your face because you walked in and said, what's the cheapest pair of glasses I can possibly buy? Probably not. The reality of it is, you probably wouldn't have bought the cheapest pair of glasses. Like, when you got your house wallpapered, when you bought your car, did you go in the garage and say, what's the cheapest brand new car you got here? It's that Corsa out there on the most basic package, and it's going to cost you 10 grand. That's the one I want. And once you start to realize that people don't buy off cost, what they probably do is they probably buy off you, like, they'll sell what you buy. So if you say, listen, we're providing a brilliant service, we are a safe pair of hands, like, all of a sudden people start going, okay, I get it, that's why it costs a little bit more, and that's what we want. Yeah,
but do you know why this is? I mean, because I obviously look at a lot of people running their business. I'll share a few tips and tricks. I don't mind doing that. So why do most people think it's always about the price? Do you think? Because if I said to you, why do you think, when you talk to a lot of other people in this industry, why do they say it's always about the price? Particularly in our service, where people are ringing you for, I've got a problem. What's the first question they ask?
You know what it is, Sean? I'm a bit embarrassed that I've never actually thought this through. So you saying that now, I've just always pushed it. And now I'm sitting in my head thinking, why do people think it's about cost? Is it? I'm guessing it's either because there's the easy answer in it, that you think it's because people ring up and they say, I'm ringing for a quote, and that's what they want. They just want the cheapest job possible. But there's something inside us saying it's a bit deeper than that. Why we end up in that trap? So go on.
But I honestly think it's because of what you just said, because the first question a customer asks is how much is it? But the question is, why do they ask that question when they ring you? Because they don't know what else to ask. They haven't got, if you ring anybody, can you come and fix my washing machine? Yeah, we can fix it. How much is it? Because we're programmed as humans to ask that question. Now, that's the first question I ask anybody. But like you just said, I don't go for the cheapest quote. I'm not asking that question because I want it cheap. I just want an idea of how much roughly we're talking about. Now, this comes then into, so why answer that question straight away when you know it's not actually, quite frankly, I don't fucking know how much it is, because I've got no idea. And we had the very case in point. One of our franchisee turns up, gets a phone call from a lady in London. I've got a little bolt hole out, just back end of this area here. Can you go and have a look at it? We've got a few mice. How much is it going to be? And he goes typical. Oh, if it's mice, maybe 3 treatments, might be X. Turns up as he gets into 3rd gear going down this driveway to the little bolt hole to the great big sort of circular thing, and there's this huge mansion. It's like, well, you didn't qualify anything. You just assumed, and you just went away with how we're programmed. How much is it? It's this. I'll go and do your job. And we make it a transaction, not a service. We make it all transactional. How much is it? It's this. Oh, okay. I'll ring you back. Or how much is it? Yeah, okay, I'll go ahead with it. We don't make it a service from day one. We make it transactional because that's what we think it is. But the only reason people ask you how much, because they don't know what else to ask. They're not going to go, what's the Latin name of a brown rat? Are they? What's the gestation period of a? They're not going to ask you that. They're going to ask you one question: how much is it, mate? And can you come? And we assume so much from that. And that's the biggest mistake we make in this industry. That's why people think it's about price. And I can elaborate a little bit further on that. So we actually run 2 brands. You probably know we have two franchise brands. And one of my guys came to me almost in tears and said, my business is broken. And it's like, oh my God, like, a grown adult in tears, successful guy. And I said, why is that? He goes, I'm getting all these phone calls and it's all about price. I said, okay, right. How many phone calls are you getting? Oh, a lot. And how many of those are about price? Oh, a lot. Right. Okay. So a lot. I don't really know what we're talking about here. So I said, go away and do an exercise. And every day, tell me how many phone calls you got. And by just out of interest, we know how many phone calls they get because we track it. Not to track them, but then we know if they're getting calls that. Yeah. And then I said, how many? And tell me how many of those you win, and tell me how many of those you lose. Okay, I can do that. And not just that, how many you lose, tell me why you lost it. So in a space of 6 weeks, 5% of the calls he lost were about price. 5%. In his mind, everything was about price. But when he actually looked at it, some of it were a few sales calls. Some of it was out of his area, didn't want to do it. Some of it was out of his skill set, didn't want to do it. Okay, so now we need to look at, maybe, are you advertising in the right places? So everything kind of comes down to a numbers game a little bit. But it's just so interesting how the mind focuses on a few things and it kind of lies to people. The 2 days when your phone doesn't ring tells your mind that it's really quiet, but it's just 2 days, and tomorrow will be a different day. But the mind then plays tricks. Oh my God, it's been quiet. Oh, I must be too expensive. The next phone call comes in and your mind's already playing tricks on you. It's a mental game that people just don't kind of get. But honestly,
this is one of the things that me and your guy win on all the time, constantly, because he'll ring us up and he'll say, I've been quiet this week. I'll go, have you? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, you sit around doing nothing? He's like, no, but the phone's been a bit quiet. I'm like, so's mine. And then the next week he'll ring us up and he'll go, run off with feet. And I'm like, yes, so are we. And you're like, there is variations which just seem to happen. Or there's a time where it's like, I'll be like, mate, and he'll be like, change next week. And I'll do the same for him. He'll change next week and I'll ring him and I'll be like, is it changed? He's like, yeah. You're like, there's 52 weeks in the year. You've had one quiet week as a business, which wasn't even a quiet week. You just didn't have more work than you could handle. And you're like, yeah, because that's the next one, isn't it? Like, unless we have more work than I can handle, I feel like we're tired. Like, if we could just fill Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 every week, I would be absolutely distraught. Distraught, I'd feel like we're doing something wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's always more to be done.
If you could fill the diary,
No,
you say if you could fill the diary, you'd be mortified.
No, what I'm saying, like, if that's all I had, if my diary, that perfect business where the first call was at 8 o'clock, the last call was at 4 o'clock, Monday to Friday, your Saturdays and Sundays were free, your evenings are free, people weren't ringing you. Do you know what I mean? Like, you had nothing to do. That almost employed life of Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. If we had that, I would feel like we were quiet. I would be absolutely chomping at the bit. I want the phone to ring before I've left the house. I want the phone to ring on the way home. I want someone to ring us on a Saturday and say, we've got a desperate job. Can you come out and help? You know, I want to be free. You know what?
Are you mad?
No, yeah. If we are not like that, if we just had like a business, if that makes sense, I would genuinely, hand on my heart, feel like we are quiet. And when I talk to a lot of people, they're the same, you know, like talking to the lad who works in one of your franchises, he's the same. And I say it, he's like, it's a bit quiet. I'm like, have you actually had any downtime? He's like, no. I'm like, it's not quiet, is it? It's not quiet. It's just, yeah, you're not used to.
Yeah, you know, no. And again, it's interesting. Tell me. I have to ask a question. Do you get some customers that email you at like 3 a.m?
Yeah, but I love that.
Yeah, but you don't answer it. Tell me you don't answer it at 3 a.m.
I don't sleep though. I'm a bit of an insomniac. But if someone, if someone rang me at like 5:30 in the morning, I'd answer it. Like, I'd be up and about. Or if someone rang me at 9, 10 o'clock at night, I can't not answer it, because I always think, like, that could be a bird stuck in a building which turns into a 25 grand netting job.
Yeah, you know, I get
So
that.
I'm
Look,
like,
I mean,
yeah. And yeah, I should probably switch my phone off and stuff like that. But if I switch my phone off, I wouldn't sleep, because I'd be sitting there thinking, wonder what's going on. Wonder what's
yeah,
going
I
on.
know, but ultimately, yeah, no, I lead generation like a phone call. I'm talking about people emailing in. We see so many emails at 3:30 in the morning giving us all the problems. You're thinking, why are you emailing? If it's that big a problem, pick up the phone type thing. But it just makes me laugh that customers sort of seem to think emailing us at 3:30 in the morning is going to get a result. But no, look, I think what you talk about lead generation and being precious about your leads, I don't think some people are precious enough, as you say. But I think ultimately the goal is that you don't necessarily be beholden to your phone, do you? The challenge for you in a bigger time is you want to know that phone call is answered, the customer does get the customer care, and that your team can respond if need be. That's kind of got to be one of your targets.
So yeah, this is if you went back 3 years ago, I couldn't let go. Like, if I had a lad working with us, he would sit in the van, would turn up, and I'd do the job, and he'd watch, and he might hand us some stuff, and I couldn't get him to do things, not because he didn't want to do it, not because he wasn't capable. I just couldn't let go. And then I kind of had an epiphany that what happened was I'd start to send him to some of the easier jobs, the simple jobs, and he would get them done and all that. And then a difficult job would come in, and I'd think, I've got to go to that. But it's just your ego, really, and you don't realize that it's your ego, but it's your ego. So I'd say, I've got to go to that. And then there was a couple of jobs, I can remember them intently, where I couldn't get there, and there were jobs that I had to do, or I thought I had to do. So I said, So I rang him up and I said, listen, here's the crack. It's going to be intense. They're going to be at you. Can you do it? And he went, yeah. And I can remember sending it to him, and would have this conversation dead honestly if he was here. And I can remember thinking, it's not a fucking chance he's getting that done. I know I'm in for a shitstorm as a result of this. And I'm like panicking away in that. And then an hour later, I'd ring him up, did you get that done? Yeah, no bother. What
do you mean, no bother? Yeah.
What? And it happened 2 or 3 times, and I remember the jobs intently. And I just had this epiphany, and I thought, you fucking idiot. Like, if you are here and learning, and every difficult job that comes in, I go to, my learning goes up and up and up. So the more difficult jobs come in, the more I have to go to them. And it's doing this, and he's stagnating. And like, why is my knowledge more than him? Because I've been put in the shit situations where I've had to figure things out. And then all of a sudden, when I started giving him a few jobs, my learning started coming down and his started doing this. And now there are certain things in the business that I wouldn't even go to, you know, that he'll tell you, mole control, you know. I used to consider myself as probably one of the best that you would come across, for a number of reasons, which we won't go into. And then he's sort of taken that on. And now I went to a job with him, I was looking, thinking, better than me at this. So if a job comes in, and he quite likes his air rifle, so shooting, I went to shoot a pigeon and I was like, lend us your gun. So he gives us his gun. I went up, I shot this pigeon. It was absolutely laser beam. And when I pulled the gun out, I didn't zero it in because I knew it was going to be laser beam. Picked it up, dropped this pigeon. Job went absolutely swimmingly. It was a real high pressure situation as well. And I can remember I gave him it back and I was like, yeah, it's laser beam that. And in my head, I just thought, I'm never shooting another pigeon. There's absolutely no need. But if I hadn't let go and give him them opportunities, I still would have been running around. And one of the scary things for me is when you say about that, letting go, we've built our own software and stuff like that. And I can see the path now. I can see the girl sitting in the office, answering the phone, sending out to him dealing with it, and me like sort of being able to take time off. And it scares the living shit out of us. Like not having, walking in and not having something to do and think, I'm like, and I'm sure that'll never happen. But it, as you say, it's that journey from start to finish that you've got to go through. That went from 70 quid for a rat job, you know what I mean? Through to that learning, you're like, oh, wow. Like, but with Pestforce, of course, you have someone who's been there, done it, seen it, got the t-shirt, who'll answer the phone to you and tell you the answer from day dot.
Yeah, and that's not me, by the way. We do have technical support in the office. You know, when I took on the Pestforce brand, I knew someone in pest control for 30, 40 years. So I brought him in as kind of technical expertise. And notwithstanding, we've got some, like you, we've got great suppliers. You know, I won't necessarily mention their names, but there's some suppliers that are go-to people that are just brilliant, you know, really, really supportive. And again, it's another telling one. I went to a network meeting. You know, we talked to our franchisees, and I remember one network meeting saying, I get all my products from this company because they're really cheap. And I get all my advice from this company because but I don't buy my products. And I kind of say to the guys, look, you got to learn to do business the right way. You know, if you're going to be serious in business, be serious in business. You can't be playing. I would never play, you know, I'm going to buy all the stuff from a cheap person, but I'm going to get all my advice from, you know, play the game, play the rules. I know, look, don't get me wrong, you know, those things can be edgy at times, but again, people duck and dive, you know, and it just makes me laugh more than anything because people think that's the way you do business. Be serious, you know, have a focus, you know, be loyal to your customers, to your suppliers. They will support you no end whatsoever. But coming back to your story just now, because I've digressed a bit there, wasn't it a great learning experience? Why you said your learning's gone down by giving this guy more responsibility? Isn't it a bit of a wow factor? You go, actually, fuck, this is great. This is like what I need. I've kind of.
The thing I love is he makes me proud of him every day. Like, I promise you, like this, and he doesn't see it. He doesn't. It's because he's never sat this side. He can't see, and you never see your own growth, do you? Like you don't see it. The old looking back thing. So like when I see him, I think like he just makes us proud every day. You know, he's just a good lad. And as you say, that wow factor. There's times he walks in and he says, we did another job on a boat the other day, cockroaches. It was a 200-meter like freight ship which had come in, had some cockroaches in a galley and all that. And I was like, I better go down and see. And when we got there, he took over in a very respectful manner. He just got on with it. And I can remember, again, it's that old, I never need to come to this job ever again. And it's not because I don't want to come, it's because like you know, like it's hard to describe, isn't it?
No, but someone says if you want to run a business, learn to get to the stage where you can sack yourself. You got to get to the we'll get to the stage where you can sack yourself, because the business, if you have a business that relies on you and only you, it's one point of failure, isn't it? You know, I went to the States last week to a conference, which I go to all the time. I took some members of the team, and I suddenly thought on that plane, and I'd kind of put provisions in place. What happens if this plane goes down? I know it's a bit of a morbid thought, but kind of, say I had an accident somewhere, there's 75 people in my network, there's 100 people in my network relying on me. You know, I need to get to the stage where this business will survive, whether I'm here or not from a morbid point of view, but from a responsibility. And you running your business, seeing someone say to you, Sean, kind of get out of the way, mate, you're getting in the way, is a fantastic position. You know, it makes you feel shit. And just following on from that, because I'm going through the same evolution. So I went to this conference, took a few people of the team. It's all about growing, learning, growing. Again, people don't realize, you know, doing podcasts, doing webinars, it's time and effort, but you learn. Anyway, in one of the sessions, it was talking about kind of growing as an entrepreneur and as an MD. And after that session, like the team that I took out there said, Sean, like, we're coming to sort a few things out for you, mate. You're shit at that. You're shit at that. You need to, and they kind of said, you need to get out of the way, son, not son, as in me, get out of the way, because we can do this better than you can. And that's that's like, it's quite, in some ways it's hard to take, isn't it? But it's also like, wow, like, you know, actually we as leaders can hold our own business back by our own incorrect thinking. No one can do it better than us. No one can do it like I can. And that's what also holds a lot of people back. You know, so again, it's an evolution that you have to go through. And I'm going through it at my stage. You know, I'm 55, so I've got 5 years left in business. You know, I need to put the right people in place, and having the team tell me, Sean, when we get back to the UK, you ain't going to be doing that anymore. You ain't going to be doing that anymore. It's like, and I kind of had to say, it's fair dues. You're right. You know, it's hard. But we've done it. And just one other tip for you, which I took away from a conference recently. Someone said to me, never give with employees, don't give them tasks to do, give them problems to solve. And I just thought that was really quite an interesting thing. Give them problems to solve, not tasks to do, because that empowers them to do such, you know, like if you tell them do this, this, and this, all they're doing is kind of doing what you do. But when you say give them problems to solve, I just thought that was a great way of explaining to people. Give people problems to solve, not tasks to do, and kind of get out of their way. Now, that doesn't mean, you know, like abdicate responsibility, but that is, I just thought that for the right people, they're better off at solving the problems rather than just saying, go and do this, this, and this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, yeah. We did, to be fair, I'm not one for blowing smoke up my own arse. I'll tell you how we get things right and wrong. But that my dad brought me up like that, so I'm like that with them all the time. Dale was making boxes the other day for some traps, and he was like, what do I cut for these? And I was like, wood. And he was like, no, what diameters, what dimensions do I cut? And I was like, figure it out. He's like, what? I was like, figure it out. It's like, look at me, like, can you? And I'm like, no, just go in, figure it out. Like, you must tell us. And I'm like, no, I'll tell you when you've done it, and then we'll have a look, and you'll then be able to use them, and you'll see why we do it one way or why we do it another, and you'll probably pick up variations on a box that potentially went wrong, but you managed to squeeze it in somewhere, and your learning will surpass my learning. So just go cut it, go figure it out. If you cut it wrong, it's just wood. It's not the end of the world. No one's going to die. It's a lump of wood. Go cut it, and then if it does go wrong, we'll fix it. You know, there's a brilliant farrier called Gary Darlow. He'll still be going now. He was like 7 times national champion and all this sort of jazz. And he used to say, the bloke that wins isn't the one who makes no mistakes. He's the one who corrects his mistakes fastest. That was his thing. You know, you've just got to, but in order to understand your mistakes, you have to make them, so you know how to, do you know what I mean? Like, it's no, if I wanted them to cut them, I would have just sent them off to a cutting shop and got it cut to my dimensions and told them to screw it together. But that doesn't help. It just doesn't help, you know. Like, I'll look at them and I'll see them struggling a bit, and they'll look at us. Maybe not so much now, but I remember when Alice first started, and he'd look at us and I would just smile at him, and I could see him thinking, I know you know how to do this, and you're not going to tell us. And I just think, no, I'm not. No, not today. If it was important and it was going to go terribly wrong, it would be a different kettle of fish. But then, like, and then you turn up and you're like, worked that, didn't it? Like, yeah, didn't even need my help.
And that empowers that person, doesn't it? That raises the esteem of that person. But it's interesting you talk about mistakes and stuff, because again, we talk about this. There's 2 words we use: failure, like you have to fail to succeed. Just get used to it. You know, don't beat yourself up because something failed, because failure is not achieving the expected result. So if you wanted to do 100,000 this year and you did 90,000, you kind of failed, but have you? You have to learn from that. But then there's an interesting take on that from someone the other day, mistakes. He said there's a difference between mistakes and failures. Mistakes are doing something you know you should have done and you just couldn't be bothered. And a failure is trying something new and actually not succeeding. I thought that was quite profound, because if you keep making mistakes, either you do that, you're not doing the stuff you know you should be doing. That's a mistake. Failure is trying something new and it's just not working. You know, and I just think, again, from a business point of view, we get het up on, oh, I failed at that, I failed at that. But if you're failing, you're actually moving yourself forward, aren't you? Every time you burn your fingers, you learn something new. If you keep burning your fingers, that's a mistake. That's kind of, that could be quite inhibiting. But again, it's the journey. It's the journey we're on. It's the journey, and I love the journey. If you don't enjoy the journey, don't be on it.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to jump back to your franchise a bit though. Tell us what makes a good franchise. So say someone now is watching this and he goes, do you know what it is? I like Sean Taylor, I like Pestforce. I'm going to look into franchising. I think that's great. It's never been there. Tell us the pitfalls of franchise and what they should look for and what they shouldn't, because everybody knows the good and bad in their industry.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, one, we're quite lucky. There's not that many franchise opportunities in pest control, but there are a few coming on the scene, and I kind of know them. And look, at the end of the day, I'm never going to rubbish somebody else. It's not about it. It's kind of keeping your eyes open. You know, you've got to go into this without the rose tinted glasses. You've got to take
it. You're right. You're absolutely right. What you say about rubbishing them. Tell us what you do well.
Okay, well, again, I'm going to be awkward how I answer that, because I kind of have I think I do lots of things well, but what comes down to this, let me just try and answer it a little bit in a round way. It might be a bit fluffy, but there are some things you should look out for. So the things that I don't like about franchising is when people offer it really cheap. You know, cheap. It's the same as any industry. There's a price you pay for value, and just be very. I'm not saying don't go. You know, there are businesses cheaper than franchises cheaper than us. Just be wary of it, because there's normally a reason. Either you're not getting the support, you're not getting the equipment, whatever it is. Be aware of guarantees. I fucking hate guarantees. Now, I also live in a business world where guarantees are quite, you know, as in warranties and guarantees are quite important. And in the world of marketing, everyone says you must have a cast iron guarantee. I have this view in franchising: if you have a guarantee, be very wary of it. It's like, you know, money back guarantee, big star next to it, and then a whole load of terms and conditions. There's no guarantees in life. You know, you're starting a business. The facts will say, if you use a franchise model, the chance of success is that much greater than doing it yourself. Doesn't mean that it won't be successful doing yourself. It's the facts will say that. I think in the first 3 years, 50% of all businesses fail. And obviously so basically when you buy a franchise, you're investing in reducing your risk. The return could be slightly less, because obviously you don't get all the spoils. There's commission to be paid or fixed fees. So I'd just be very wary of people giving guarantees, people selling all the good stuff. You know, to me, you've got to know the good, the bad, and the ugly. The person has got to be able to show their face, got to look you in the eye. You know, if people are trying, in the first phone call, if someone's trying to sell you a franchise, something's flipping wrong. You know, how do I, you know, if you rang me today, Sean, and said, Sean, I've got 25 grand, mate. I love what you do. And I've never spoken to you, but I think you're great. You know, I love what everyone says about you. I'll go, great. And you'll go, I want to buy it. I'll go, okay, fantastic. But why? And I'll take you all the way back down the process and say, right, let's start from scratch. Let's come in and meet me. I'm not going to take your money. And yet the old ways is, if someone is keen to take your money from day one, be very wary. You know, and I can't really say more than that, because it's such a personal thing. People say, what's good in me? I could say our CRM, our ops system is fucking brilliant. Well, that might not be that interesting to you. I'd say our health and safety is brilliant. I can say that our marketing is brilliant. Our sales is brilliant. I could say all these things, but what's important to you, Sean? If you joined us today, what are you looking for in a franchise? And if you say to me, Sean, I'm looking for you to bring me all the work, I just want a list of jobs every morning for what I need to do, I'll be saying, go and get a job. If you say, Sean, look, I want you to help guide me, to mentor me to become a better business person. I want to grow a business that's going to sustain myself and my family. And when my son's 18, I want him to come into the business. And I think we need about X amount per month. I'll be saying, oh, I think we could probably help there. You know, how much are you going to push yourself? If you came to me and said, I'm just going to sit at home, wait for the phone to ring, and if you can't bring me leads, so it's such a personal thing, if that makes sense. So I would never label we're brilliant at this. I'll never say we're brilliant at that. We have what we have. We'll tell you what it is. And if it works for you and it works for us, then it could be a tick in the box. I don't know. Does that answer the question? Because I'm not going to be.
Yeah, I just think you're being a bit. I think you know how I said you can't see your growth. You can never see your growth. Like that's just the epitome. Because from an outsider looking at what your lads get, like the support, the like it's a business in a box. Isn't it? That's like unless you've done the hard journey of understanding a business, and I do genuinely. And this was one of the questions I wanted to ask. How do you? I think I know the answer. I think I know what you're going to say. How do you get your customers to understand the value? Because it's not like so I have rats in a house and they've been there for 5 years and we've had a couple of pest controllers out and we can't get rid of them. When we go in and we work it out and we get rid of the rats, like that customer's like, fucking hell, I understand the value of that. This is brilliant. We're not living with rats anymore. He's done something different. It's absolutely great. But with your franchisees, because they've never experienced the pain, it's I would imagine it's very difficult. And you can't go to them, oh, it's a bit shit doing it yourself. You'd have to do this, you'd have to do that. Because then you're sort of like, do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's like you're trying to talk them into buying into you. And I'm like, and it always amazes, how do you get them to buy in to Pestforce, the brand? And how do you get them to understand the value that they are paying very little for what they get in real terms? Because they've never went out and priced up SEO. They've never went out and priced up insurance. They've never went out and priced, all this stuff behind us, the compute, like all of that stuff that you do for them, that access to that guy who can do pay-per-click, who can do SEO, who can do Google Guarantee, who can do Google My Business, and he can do it without you getting it wrong. Like, how do you get your customers to understand the value?
So when you say our customer is our franchisee, or our customer as in
the franchisee. Because I was looking at franchisees and I was thinking, I'll be dead honest with you, I would have been that guy who bought the franchise, came with you, done a couple of years, and then thought, what the fuck am I paying him for? Like, he's just taking money off me and I'm doing the work. Because I would have been that naive. And it's only because I'm paying the bills today that I understand what they get. And I guess when someone leaves a franchise, it's only when you're out in the big wide world and someone turns around to you and goes, oh yeah, I want 800 quid off you for your insurance. Or worse, something goes wrong and you've bought some 300 quid insurance off the internet and they go, you're not covered. What?
Okay. So no, look, that's it's a challenge to take. Obviously, you have a different view on it because you've kind of gone in the hard way, and you know the value, and you know the value of your time, and know the value of your waste, and the spend and exit, and all the mistakes you've made. So it's interesting. You talk to someone coming in new. By the way, you've got to invest this. And by the way, you can pay for extra services and it's 200 quid or 300 quid. And all they know is the value of it going out the door. It can be really difficult to justify that to a franchisee, if I'm honest. And I can elaborate a little bit on the past. Then there may be people that looking at this that understand Pestforce has been through an evolution. It started, I think, in 2007. So we've only owned it for half the time. So when we came into this brand, we did a roadshow. We went on the whole of the UK, talked to everybody, what do you want out of us as the new owners? What do you want? They want this, we 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 want this. We said, okay, great. We went away and we said, we can do all of that, but it comes at a cost. And the cost was X. And they just said, well, I'm not paying that. I currently pay X. And I said, well, look, if you want this, there's a cost to it. And and it was a really painful experience for everybody involved, both sides of the parties. And some franchisees left. They had to, because they weren't prepared to pay the money we wanted to give them everything we felt they needed to run it as a proper business, proper business. And don't get me wrong, it was a business that was well known and it had some great franchisees in it. We lost some good people, but they didn't appreciate the value. And so you only appreciate value when you lose something, isn't it? And if you've got 10 years experience in pest control and you've got lots of customers, you probably can set up on your own. But as a franchise owner, I don't want to bring people in, train them up and let them go off on their own. I have to accept that might happen with one or two people. But if you truly understand the value of what's wrapped around you, then you will always stay with us. And our challenge as a franchisor, I suppose, is to keep delivering value to people and keep evolving the brand and keep pushing it forward. You know, we know this world of marketing is changing by the day. You know, as you say, Google guarantees being created. You've got the local maps. Everything's changing. The SEO changes. The algorithm changes. You've got ChatGTP now hitting the network, and everyone going mad about that sort of stuff. You know, so our job behind the scenes is to keep the brand fresh, keep it pushing forward, guide these people. And we've got people that have had over 10 years with us, and they're not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere because, as I say, they know where their bread's buttered. But I value them as part of our network as well. So, you know, it's always a challenge to us. Don't get me wrong. If I said to someone today, we'll charge you 250 quid to do this for your marketing, you'll be biting my hand off. And a franchisee.
Honestly, if I could turn around to you and say, I feel like take me money. You know,
no, well, right now, Sean, I'm actually in the process of increasing my prices as we speak, actually, from just talking to you today. No, look, I'm not. I could big myself up or the brand up. I'm not like that anyway, but it doesn't. The words that come out of my mouth are authentic and real, and that's how I feel, that's how I think. But the best words come out from people like yourself. I mean, yeah, I didn't really know where this conversation was going to go. I mean, we've got to know you through talking to Malcolm, and you've helped us out on so many occasions, because again, I value great thoughts, great people, great service delivery. I value all that. You know, you're not part of our network, but I know you. You know, I've got to know you pretty well. You know, give you a bit of rubbish on social media sometimes. You know, give you a bit of a hard time occasionally. But where was I going on that whole rant? Coming from your words is so important, and the words of our franchisees. So our motivation comes from franchisees saying things like, I came into the brand expecting this, and we got so much more. I'm doing so much better than I thought. My family's life is better now than I ever thought it would be, because that ultimately sells the brand. You know, and again, and we have the same philosophy in our relationship with our external customers, our consumer customers, is deliver great service, get them to tell other people how good you are. And that kind of, and it doesn't happen automatically. You have to work hard at that, you know, kind of word of mouth with a little bit of supercharging around it. That's what sells. Know, like, and trust. People know you, like you, trust you. The world's your oyster. Price doesn't come into it like you think it does.
That's the most B&I thing I've ever heard in my life.
Sorry?
I think that's the most B&I thing I've ever heard in my life.
What's that? What do you mean?
Are you joking me?
Oh, you mean in terms of referrals and all that bullshit?
No, like, and trust. That's what they're saying. It, they just drill it into you from day dot. And people do business with those who they know, like, and trust.
Okay, I have been through BNI, but no, like, and trust is something we've instilled through our business for the last 9 years.
Sure, we've been at BNI for the last 3 or 4 years, and it's been a good move for us, you know, a really good move for us. I'm not in it currently for personal reasons, for business reasons, for everything. It's just not right. Would I revisit it again? Absolutely. But I think it's funny because those lessons are lessons that's the lessons that you get if you're willing to listen to them through BNI are lessons which are really, really, really good in business. You know, they are really good. There's no getting around it. No, like, and trust, you know, do what you say when you say you're going to do it and all that sort of stuff. It's just the basics, isn't it? Everyone thinks it's a shaky hand club, and it's just so far away. It's just business.
But do you know what, Sean? You're so right. But this is again the problem, the folly that people have in business. It's the basics, and because it's basics, people get bored doing the basics, and they think they need to do more than the basics, and they don't do the basics because they think they need to do more. If people stuck to the basics more often than not, they get better results. But they think they're chasing the next big thing, and they're missing the basics. And the other thing you just said is people sort of see the business learnings, but because they're so busy doing the do, they don't stop and think, what does that mean? And I am in a privileged position. I'm not out doing the do. So when I learn things, I say, well, okay, how does that relate to my business? You know, it might be a Sparky saying something, it might be a plumber saying something. You'd have that view. What's that got to do with my business? But I'll be saying, that's a brilliant idea. How could I implement that into my business? You know, take the learnings of other people. These business gurus, I know that they kind of make their, you know, these coaching things, but they're not stupid. You know, if you listen to them and implement half of what they tell you, it works. It works, but you've got to have that mindset to want to learn it, want to take it in, and want to, you know, to kind of put it into your mindset, the way you do business. And I can just see, like, you're the sort of guy that probably listens to a few videos occasionally. Just
so one of my things, as I say to the lads all the time, you've got to try and be a 10%er, and this comes from my from fishing. The first thing that you have to understand is that the gap at the top is small. You know, that if you think you're going to be head and shoulders above your competitors, you are living in a dream world. You are going to be inches above them, and you are always fighting to keep those inches. And a lad called Andy Bennett brought up this 10%er, or Jamie Hughes, I can't remember, one of the Northwest anglers. He would always, in a competition, we'd catch 1 or 2 more fish than anyone else. You know, you'd catch 97, he'd catch 99, or you'd catch 97, he'd catch 97, but they'd be bigger than yours. And he would do it consistently, week in, week out. And I was like, why? And he said, oh, it's like 10%. I'd say, what do you mean? He said, we're trying to do everything 1 or 2% better every process. So whether that's tying a hook on, whether that's tying a rig, whether that's putting your bait in, whether that's your presentation, just try and make it 1% better. And when you add those 1% up, you end up 10%, and you win on that time all the time. So I always say to the lads, like, just try and be a 10%er. I'm not asking you to beat the world. I just want you to try and be 1 or 2% better than you were yesterday. So put an extra line in your treatment report. You know, tie your poison to the back leg under the kitchen units, not to the front leg. You know, do them little things. Whatever it is, just 1 and 2s, and they add up. And that was another epiphany for me when he told us that. I thought, that is just the best life advice for getting good at something I've ever had. You know, like, it's just effort, and 1 and 2% here and there, just nick it. You know?
Yeah, there's a David Brailsford or something, the cyclist chief. He called it the 1% difference, 1% of, you know, 1% improvement on your clothing, 1% improvement on your bike, and I see it play out. And you just run it through your numbers: activity, leads, conversion rate, price, sales. You change your sales just by 1% improvement on all those little things, and you think, surely I can. You say, someone, put your hand up as high as you can. A little bit higher. Oh yeah, I can put it a little bit higher. And the same analogy. And I know I know some people, oh, this is all corporate bullshit, business bullshit. It's true. I see it play out every day. Every day I see it play out. It's so, you know. And again, I have this other analogy in business. It's a bit like getting fit or losing weight. The stuff you're doing every day doesn't feel like the business is moving forward. But then suddenly you look in the mirror about 3 months later, 6 months later, and then you see the difference. But because you do these little things every day and it doesn't seem to be making a difference, you kind of people give up on it. Does that make sense? And I really have that analogy.
Yeah,
you know.
I would be lying to you if I said I hadn't fallen foul of that before. And it's that old Steve Jobs thing, isn't it? Your life is a series of dots. The only issue is you can only see them looking backwards. You can't see them looking forward.
Yeah,
like
very much.
the best talk I've ever heard in my life. But yeah, Sean, it's been great. I've had you for like an hour and 20, so thank you very much. It's been brilliant. You know, I can't say thank you enough. And I'm sure, I always think with these, and I'm honest to a fault. This is my thing. I think there's 2 things that happens. If only one person watches this and gets one thing out of it and gets 1% better, then I think it's worth an hour of my time. But also, like, and not many people consider this, and everyone I've spoke to, I say it to, and they go, yeah, I never thought of that. I think these videos are a time capsule for your kids, for your grandkids, for your great grandkids, because they'll get put on YouTube, they'll get kept, and then they'll, like, when you're in a care home wobbling in a chair and you can't talk, your great grandkids will be watching it going, really? Is that where you got it from? Like, yeah, because our parents
grandparents didn't have that ability, did they?
No, they didn't. I mean, I look at me and say I still had my hair at that age, which is I'll be happy with, you know. I think, Sean, what you're doing is, you know, you are a bit of a trailblazer in many ways. You know, I know not everyone will know you, but you are becoming more well known. But I'm just interested in, you know, what's the next, you know, what's the journey for Killline? What's your journey? What's your plan?
I've never, I say to people all the time, I never have a goal, but I always have a plan. And I say that because I've seen so many people, and I've done this as well. I've seen so many people miss the right opportunities because of a goal. You know, I don't know, say for instance, I say, I want to have 10 lads on the road and 10 vans. And you're like, that's where I'm going, that's where I'm going, that's where I'm going. And then there's an opportunity comes up over here. That's probably a better opportunity, but you're so fixed on your goal that you can't see where it's going. So my plan is, I want to do that, but it's got to be malleable. So with me, my brain works differently to other people. I think it's something to do with, I'm slightly dyslexic, and they say that your brain functions in a different manner. I think that's what it is. I don't know. Maybe it's just a little bit daft. But with me, I know that if I'm not busy, and this is going back to what I was saying about if your phone isn't ringing all the time, if I'm not busy 24/7, I'm my own worst enemy. Like, I just create trouble for myself. Everything goes south. I'm an absolute total nightmare. And I love building stuff. I love learning and understanding. So like, what's my goal for Killline? I look and I think there's a number of options we'd go into. I'd love to offer a couple of other services. We offer 2 services that I think we do really well. The bird of prey stuff, if I could get the right lad, that would be nice. And I think it would be good learning from me as well, because I'm naturally inclined to go into birds of prey. It would be something that as a young lad would have captured my heart. So that ability for me to stand back and not be involved in the process at all and watch someone without my help, without my assistance, without my knowledge, because I don't have any in it, to go and do it, and for him to come through and for me to go, yeah, I get it. That's another, he's done all the learning, but it's another tick in my box that I can now do that. And I can, you know, so I like building. I like building stuff, whether that's metaphorical, whether it's physical, whether it's whatever it is. So I just look all the time and think, how do I get from here to there? And it can change, you know, but yeah, I'm not going to lie, I'm relatively happy with where we're at the minute. The honeybees, my escape is honeybees. It's become like it's just rapidly consuming us on a daily basis. I think about them all the time. But I would love to start that up as a little business on its own that takes very little time, so that when my boys get to be 16, 17, 18, I can give them the help. It's wrong to say help, the assistance that I never had. Like, I know I was talking about my dad saying, like, best builder you've ever met, terrible businessman. When I look at the honeybees, I think it's a very simple business model and the figures are so simple. And it would be lovely if I could get them to 16-year-old and say, you want what? You want a Mega Drive? All right, yeah, I'll show you how to get that. Here's your figures. This is what this costs. This is what you're going to get for it. This is what you need to do. You can take that money out now, you can put it back in, and next year you'll get twice as much. Or you can take it now, but you have to understand you put yourself back 12 months. Like, you figure that out. And if I got a little website like that put away, I say all the time, this Killline isn't for me. It just isn't for me. It's for them. And it's not just the business. It's the ability for me to have made as many mistakes as I possibly can from start to finish, so that when they get to be 16, 17, 18, 20, 30-year-old, when they're doing something, I would like to think I'll be in a position where I can say to them, have a think about that. Be careful with that. Yeah, like, do you know what I mean? Just that. And if I get to 60 and neither of them want it, and I sell it, then
that money, you know, I don't know, one of them wants to be a piano player. You're like, well, what do you need? Like, well, I want to get into selling pianos to fund me piano lifestyle.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, what do you want? Like, let's make that work. So I'm blessed that I get the ability to do this in an industry that I love, because I love pest control. I love it. From a kid, my dad used to tell us stories. That's what happened. You know, my dad used to tell us, I'll get a bit teary over this. My dad used to tell us stories about him when he was a kid, and I used to sit and listen to them all the time. And then, like, it just captivated us, you know, all poaching stories and stuff like that. So, like, this industry as it is, I just love it every day. I love it.
I mean, I'm not even a technician. I've come from a diamond trading background. I'm an accountant by trade. You know, I love running businesses, and pest control is a really fascinating, interesting. And I'm not even involved day to day on the technical. I just think, and it's a misunderstood. And actually, this brings us on to one challenge that we're all going to face in the next few years, and that is bringing young blood into this industry. There's a stat that says something like, in the next 5 or 10 years, 50% of our workforce will be beyond retirement age. And actually having this industry, bringing this industry to life and showing people what it can offer, it offers so much to so many, but it's not really looked at. And I think that's a big challenge that we all face within the industry. We need to bring the new blood in, and it'll be great if your boys want to get involved or your family want to get involved. I've got my son in this business, and he's doing fabulously well, not at pest control, in terms of the marketing side. And he's now telling me, Dad, get out of my way. You know, you're just causing obstacles. Let me crack on with that, which is lovely to see. I don't know whether he wants to stay in pest control, but it's really interesting. I mean, as an industry, we've got a really interesting 5 or 10 years ahead of us. And I love your approach to it, is bring it on, we'll deal with it. Other people's attitude is, we've got to defend it with our life and not move forward and not change things. We've got to change. This industry's got to move forward. It's got to be younger, and it's going to face challenges, but we just tackle them head on and we find new solutions. That's life, isn't it?
Yeah, Charles Darwin said it, wasn't it? I can remember it. Another one that stuck in my head, Charles Darwin's, was, it's not the biggest and strongest who succeed, it is the first to adapt and evolve. You know, and you're like, yeah. So when we lose fire cam, when we lose this, when we lose that, whinge as much as you want, fella, not going to help you. You've got to
find a solution,
get it done. Like, you know, another one I say to the lads all the time, like, when something gets difficult, I go, mate, we can put a man on the moon. Like,
can you imagine Elon Musk
on the moon? And you're going to let a mole outsmart you? Like, really? Like, you can't figure this out? Like, no, of course I can. Of course you can. Like, you know, we can put a man on the moon. We can make a little thing about that big that can talk to someone in Australia in real time. It can run your life. It can answer questions. It can write your articles through ChatGPT or whatever it is. And you can't catch your house mouse. Like, you know,
no. We can talk. We can talk.
D. You know, isn't it? Bed bugs, right? Bed bugs take we do 3 treatments. You know, I had Mark on talking about them, with sucking them up and steaming them and treating them and heat sources and all that. And I'm like, what, and you think that you can't treat a wasp nest because you haven't got fire cam? Like, am I missing something? Of course you can. You just you're stuck in your ears, aren't you? Let's bring it on, and we'll go from there.
You keep challenging everybody, Sean, because that's what this industry needs, without a doubt. People that challenge the norm, challenge the status quo, you know, because it will move and change and evolve. And if you're stuck in your old ways, I know we're all kind of stuck in our own ways to a degree, but, you know, let's just move this thing forward, and you keep doing what you're doing. Yeah, if you ever want to franchise in Sunderland, let me know.
You know, I understand that I sometimes ask questions that most people wouldn't, but I think that's probably the ones people want to hear. And I think, from my point of view, getting someone on who's the MD of Pestforce for 75 franchises, there's a lot of people in your position would have thought, might not be. And you were like, it didn't even come into it. You were like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll happily do that. And I was like, yeah, brilliant. Because I've asked a couple of people who have went, for commercial reasons, we can't do that. And you're like, give away. Like, got to answer the difficult ones. But thank you very much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I'm sure we'll chat again in the future. And you know, your lads ever need a hand that with something that we do, we're not great at everything, but there's a couple of things we're more than welcome. And I know that the favour will be returned. So thank you.
No, definitely. Particularly about honeybees, Sean. We've got a strong, not fascination. We've got 2 or 3 guys that actually love that thing, and we want to. You know, that's a bit of a focus for us. This idea of people going around treating honeybees and all this bullshit got to change. You know, and it's still happening.
If your lads are keen on honeybees, just tell them to join the UKBR. It will become the cornerstone of all bee work. It's clearly heading that way. They're doing a great job. You know, and it's a bit like the Pestforce of the honeybee world, like where everyone gets questions, and you could have a question from a listed building to an asbestos to a breed to it. That there is such, they call it the hive mind, and everybody's willing to assist in there. It's not an industry that is like room for the boys, if that makes sense. They are actively looking for people, as you say, with the right mentality to push the industry forward, to jump on and start doing that type of work. So UKBR, get them to join, and you know, it'll be
Brilliant.
Yeah, it'll be the best.
Thanks. I was going to send you an invoice for tonight, but that bit of advice is good enough. Right,
I'm your invoice.
I'm going to go home now. So look, Sean, it's been a pleasure.
God bless. Lovely to speak to you, Sean.
Yeah. Cheers, man.
Bye. Bye.
Cheers. Bye bye.